y'all, Rosie here, your life coach, queer anthropologist, and dog trainer. I am the owner of Goldfish Coaching here in Portland, Oregon, and I wanted to start a new video series called All the Shoulds You Cannot See. The reason for this is that I think I've been hearing a proliferation of shoulds recently, and I've been hearing it coming from clients, I've been hearing it coming from family and friends, and I've certainly been hearing it come from right in here. And I think it would be helpful to break down some of the shoulds into like specific areas so that we can talk about where they really come from and how we might combat them in our own lives to help ourselves live a little bit more organically and a little bit more compassionately with ourselves, right? So today I wanted to start out with this should called our thing. We have an idea that we should get home from a long day at work and we should have a thing that we are really passionate about. Maybe it's a hobby, maybe it's some kind of activity, right? And we want to read books about it. We want to be part of groups on it, maybe even take classes in it. And we have this idea, I think, for a couple of reasons. I think one of the biggest ones is that, and I'm not going to go into a spiel about social media, but the fact is that we live so much of our social life on social media that our perceptions of what other people do and how other people live are very guided by the algorithms that guide social media. And so people don't generally go on social media and post about the tuna fish sandwich that they ate while they watched Outlander. Generally, it's Julia. And Julia fills her Instagram with these incredibly beautiful booties that she's knitted. And apparently she knits enough for like every single child born in the US every year. Or Mike, who's gotten into sourdough starters, and he built an entire nursery for his sourdough starters so that they can thrive and they can find their true selves in his stewardship. Or Terrence. Terrence started with a couch to 5K, and now he runs ultra marathons once a month, right? So these are the people that we see taking up so much of the airwaves on social media. And then our brains tell us this is how people live. In order to live a fulfilling life, you should, outside of your job or career, have a whole other thing that you're really into and you're really passionate about and you spend a lot of time on. And there's nothing inherently wrong with having a thing, right? It's the should in our brain. Because what happens is that turns into this inner critic, a voice within ourselves that is saying, you aren't enough, you're not complete, what you do doesn't constitute a full life unless you're engaging in this way, right? So maybe you want to get home and you want to take a quiet walk on your street or sit in the backyard and watch your dogs play. And maybe you want to just make your tuna fish sandwich and lay down in front of Outlander. Can you guess that I did that recently? And those things they are in no way less valuable, right? But our brain tells us that they are. So when we impose these expectations on ourselves and we engage in this intense self-criticism, we're worrying that we're not living fully, that we're not doing worthwhile things with our lives. A remarkable paradox arises in which we spend so much energy criticizing ourselves that we don't end up having energy to actually do anything in our lives, to actually do those wholehearted and fulfilling things. And what this ends up creating is what I call, and many people call, shutdown. We spend so much energy in this realm of our thing and so much critical time that we eventually just shut down that part of our thought process because it's just too painful to be there. It's a very, very common way that we protect ourselves from pain. But unfortunately, what it also does is it shuts down that whole arena where we might be able to engage in a really wholehearted way. And it might make our lives more fulfilling and large and full, right? So it's really important that we try to combat that self-critical voice so that we don't go into that place of shutdown and we end up actually having that energy to do the things that we really want to do. So what should we be doing? Right? It's hard to talk about this without using that word. What I would say is, instead of what should we be doing, because that is asking what comes from the outside that will tell us what we should be doing. How about we ask, what is organically arising within us that feels like it's really fulfilling for us? And in order to do that, we need to go into a space where we can be complete and we can be whole and we can be enough. That's very, very important. Because until we are enough, our brain is going to continually engage in that should, in that self-criticism. And if we can go into that space and really just sit with ourselves where we are exactly enough, we can watch what arises naturally for us that would really feed us and really give our lives more of a whole feeling. That is, if you are missing that whole feeling once you go into that place. So I want to give an example, and this is from my own life, but this is by no means to indicate either that you should do what I do or seek out what I have, nor that I am in any way a paragon of escaping the shoulds, because I absolutely am not, and I don't think anyone is. I think it's a constant process that we go through. But I do have a thing that I do in my life. I have an activity that I feel like has arisen from a very organic place, and that is knitting. It's a little bit cliche. But the reason that knitting, I feel like, arises from that very organic, fulfilling place for me is because it fulfills a specific need in me. It makes it so that I can fill a gap that otherwise would draw me down a little bit. So I deal with a complex realm of chronic medical conditions. And I often feel very tired. I often am in pain, and I often feel quite sick to my stomach. And those things can make it pretty hard to get a lot done, right? And that doesn't feel great. It's something that I think, even if we aren't really stuck in a place of needing to be productive, we all want to feel like our days contained something. And on those days when I'm really struggling, I feel like my day hasn't contained very much. I can sit down and knit. And I can not only sit down, I can lie down if I need to and knit. And it's soft in my hands. It feels really nice on my hands. It doesn't take a lot of brain power. I'm following, a series of stitches. I'm following a pattern. I make beautiful things. They all have mistakes in them. I'm not about to sell them on Etsy, right? I don't take classes in this. I don't read books on it. I just find a pattern I like and I start making it and I give it to the people in my life, which I hope makes them happy. And I can spend that time and feel like I have something in my day where I have created something has come out of my time, even on those days when I'm really struggling physically. And so for me, knitting is not about, I don't post about it, I don't talk about it much. It's not about some kind of outside need for fulfillment. It's completely about filling a particular space in my life that really needs to be fulfilled in order for me to feel like I am living wholeheartedly. So that, it's an example. It feels different for everyone, of course. And I see so many people around me in the world who have found ways to engage with their lives in these very, very organic ways. Of course, there are people for whom feeding and clothing and loving their family is completely fulfilling, right? And there's no need to have more on top of that. So it really is about finding the ways to spend your time that are going to feed you instead of bring you down, that are going to give you energy instead of sapping your energy. We all have massive energy demands all the time. We need to go to work. We listen to the news, which is really tough. Maybe we're part of a particular community that is under siege or having to deal with political issues or having to deal with, historical racism. We all have really, really remarkable demands on our energy stores. So let's spend our time doing things that don't demand that much. And if you want to run an ultra marathon, knock yourself out. Don't literally, drink plenty of water and don't run in the sun, but you don't need to turn your finished basement into a sourdough starter nursery unless you really want to, and that arises from you. So I hope we can all just take a breath. I hope that was helpful for someone. If you have any suggestions for shoulds that are coming up for you a lot or you've heard someone else talk about, absolutely put them in the comments and I would be happy to make videos about them. My hope is that this series is just a way to help people think about these things a little bit differently and get a bit of a different perspective on them. It's not a means by which to tell people how to live or what they should and should not think. And as usual, try to keep the comments respectful and from a well-meaning place. We don't need to add any more negativity into our world. And if you would like to contact me, if you're interested in coaching or just have any questions about what I do, I've included a link to my website for Goldfish Coaching in the description. Feel free to take a look through, and you can always reach out and contact me about anything you'd wish to. Have a good one, everyone, and I will see you soon.